Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Coders Break. We're just going to laugh at some funny memes. Chances are if you've been coding a lot today or this week, you need a little break. So here, if you laugh, you win. Please don't forget to like and subscribe as well. It really helps out the channel. Alright, let's jump into today's silly memes. Right, so what we got here, front end versus back end, according to the user. Okay, we've got a very pretty seeming lady looking over a rock, but behind her is a really ugly dragon body. Yeah, I mean, it can be like this. It really can be like this. The front end can look really fancy, but once you start looking on the back end, yeah, you could be in for a mess of code. Depends on how well it's been managed, right? But from a user's perspective, does it really matter? You know, as long as it looks and interacts nice and it works on the back end, does a user really care? I mean, I guess if this guy gets to know her a little bit better, he might care, so. Alright, quote of the day. If anyone is having a bad day, remember that today in 1976, Ronald Wayne sold his 10% stake in Apple for $800. Now it's worth, oh my god, is that 58? Is that billion? I can't even think of numbers. That's a million. 58 billion. 65,210,000. Yeah, I'm pretty slow with numbers, as you can tell. 58 billion. That's insane. I wonder if Ronald Wayne has been kicking himself when that stock just goes up and up and up and up. And he realized that he sold out on this massive stake. I don't know, how do you feel? I think I'd be pretty choked. But maybe he hit big on something else, but nowhere near this big. Nowhere near this big. Sorry, Ronald. Okay, the solution to 99% of all syntax errors. It's the semicolon again. I think this is a running theme in all of my videos. Maybe it's because I'm happy I don't have to use semicolons that often. Maybe once a week I'll touch a little bit of JavaScript and I'll have to use these things. I don't know what they are, but the rest of my week is pretty chill. No semicolons. 3 database admins walked into a NoSQL bar. A little while later, they walked out because they couldn't find a table. Oh dear. This is a joke only programmers are going to get. Nerds like us. I have not really worked with much NoSQL, to be honest. All of the stuff I've done is in Rails. We have relational models and database tables. So I haven't worked with them, but I know there are instances where NoSQL beats relational databases for quick data seeking management. But when you start having data that has to have relationships, it breaks down, and relational databases are probably far more practical. But what about you? Do you prefer NoSQL or relational databases? Is it maybe the case justifies the technology? I think that's always the best approach, right? It's silly to like one over the other for any one reason. I think there's pros and cons. Okay, how users see programmers. Yeah, some alien sitting there that's hacking away in some foreign language, and how programmers see the users. Yeah, a bunch of Luddites who have no idea what they're doing. And this is something that's really hard to keep in perspective when you're writing code and designing user experiences. Because for us, we know the app. We work in it every day and we understand, it's obvious if you click this button, it's going to do this. Or if you need to do X, then you need to go into the app and do Y. But everybody's different. Some people are just coming into this app having not been in it for 2 weeks, and they forget stuff and they don't have all the context you do. So it's hard to keep this in mind. But sometimes I certainly do feel like the users are a bunch of cavemen, especially when they do really, really silly stuff. Really silly stuff. But you're going to have 75-year-olds using your app probably, so you got to build for all cases. A novice programmer. Ding. I can't believe it worked first time. An experienced programmer. Ding. I can't believe it worked first time. Is this you? Which one are you? Because I've definitely been both of these. And I'm not going to say I'm a super experienced programmer, but I've done it enough now where I'm skeptical. If something works first time, especially something complex, I'm like, hang on a minute. There should be an error here somewhere. There's no way my code's perfect. I will go back and I will make it fail in areas where I know that there's a trigger point, or an area where I know that the value should be something. I will change it and make these things fail just so I understand what's working here. I mean, this is why test-driven development is very useful, because providing your test cases are relevant and suitable and match the exact expectations that you have, then if it does work, you've got the tests to back you up. There's nothing worse though than writing the code and then going in the UI or running it in a shell and it works, and not having any backup in tests. But I'll admit, I'm pretty lazy. I write my tests after my code 95% of the time. Okay, designers. Look, we have similar ideas. No, you stole my idea. Whereas programmers, man, I stole your code. It's not my code. This is so true. And it's an interesting thing about coding and software development is it's quite normal to take other people's code and implementations and maybe tweak them a little bit, but throw them in your code base. I've done this so many times. In fact, coders write articles and blogs telling other coders, this is how I did something. And I have taken that code, I have copied it, and I've pasted it, and I've just tweaked it to my own needs, right? It saves a lot of the overhead of having to think about how something works, as long as you like the fundamentals of how they've approached a problem. Whereas in design, I don't think there's the same... There's not the same sharing of information or ideas or creativity. I think maybe that's part of it. As software developers, you're trying to solve a problem and build something. Whereas as a designer, it's more of a creative process. So you want to be the one that created, had that bright spark, right? You don't want other people taking that. Quite different. What's your experience been like with sharing code versus design? Okay. When you finally get how to code your approach for a problem while having a nap. Yes, this happens to me frequently. Not necessarily while having a nap, because I don't really nap, but it will always be when I'm doing something completely different. I will, for example, take my dog for a walk, or I'll be having a shower, and there's a problem that I just couldn't solve, and I'm kind of frustrated. My mind just keeps working on it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, why don't I try this? Why don't I try that? And often I'll go back, after my break and try something, and I will get further along. There's something about stepping away from a problem and entering a different perceptual context and do something different, but your mind will keep working on the problem. I'm sure we're all very similar in this. Friend, wow, you are really good at programming. Me, I keep trying stuff and it just keeps working. I mean, really, that's it. That is very true with programming. You see some people on YouTube, right? They can just... Some YouTubers are really good at just... They've done something many times, or they're just very, very creative, done it enough times, enough reps that they can just write and their code works. And they're super quick at debugging and just figuring stuff out. I think for most of us, though, who are, junior to mid, we really have to think. We have to try something, it breaks, we have to fix it, go back. It's a lot more of an iterative process where sometimes it does just feel like I'm just writing code here. I'm just trying stuff. I'm just, I've got an idea. I'm going to throw it out there and see if it works and fix it when it breaks. There's no I in for programmers. Yeah, I guess if you're a programmer, you're going to get this joke. Though in Ruby, when you write loops, we don't have to use I. Yeah, JavaScript for sure, and I know in many other programming languages the loops do have a counter, like I, but I haven't had to use I in a while. Comments to describe the program? Nah. Comments to temporarily remove part of the code? Yeah. Definitely not a great practice to comment out your code and commit that. It's fine while you're actively developing locally, I think, just to, again, test some assumptions, remove some code to make sure you understand what's happening with respect to that code. But comments to describe the program, I think these are super important. And I think the jury's still out on what good comments are. At work, I know we've debated this quite a bit as to what comments you should write, where and when, but generally we try and follow loosely, I guess, the GitHub style guide for comments. But I think comments are very useful, especially in complex areas. You can save someone a lot of time just by adding a few comments. All right, the end. Super quick. But the ends always justify the memes. Hopefully you had a little laugh there, and it's time to get back to coding. I'll see you in the next one.